All right, let's see. Hey, looks like my chat window is working again. That's fantastic news. Let's go ahead and move to the channel. I think I'm probably live at this point. Good. So we're gonna drop down. Mic check. Good. Check. So we're gonna drop down. Check. Good. So we're gonna drop down. Check. Okay, cool. Volume sounds good. I'm gonna grab some links here real quick to get the social media up and running, and then we'll get to work here. We're developing here. Well, let me just say, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been DMing since 1987. I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition on the DMsGuild since 2017. And we've been working on this martial powers system for the past 150 episodes, like for the past year and a half, basically. Just been slowly picking away at it, like we're doing right now. We know that 2024 we're going to see a lot of updates. Those have been getting fed to us on the daily video chats, and then they post articles on D&D Beyond. We had already implemented a lot of revisions to martial classes to give them an alternate magic system that is not spellcasting. So it allows for sustained effects, reactions, strikes, as well as maneuvers, exploits. So there's a wide array of things that you can do. We provided a mana pool for us to be able to cast with. It's all themed around the color mana spell point variant rules that's on the DMsGuild that you can see on the cover here. When we're complete with the martial powers and it publishes, we'll bundle it in with these other books. We're going to update all of these for 2024, and then we'll have the martial powers system. And once that gets put in place, we're going to have the same color mana system that can be used for all 13 characters and be able to smoothly multi-class in between them. We have it doesn't have to be color mana. It could just be generic spell points, but the ratios are 1-to-1. A first level spell costs 1 point. A ninth level spell costs 9 points. A third level maneuver costs 3 points. A fourth level strike costs 4 points. And then depending on what kind of a character class it is, you'll have anywhere from 20 to 100 mana over the course of 20 levels. And you have all the prep powers as well. I am just about done with my spiel, so let's go ahead and I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. You can check out different things that I do on here. Like, subscribe, hit a bell icon to get notifications of when I am live in the future. Here is the full playlist of all previous 100 of all these 150 episodes. And if you are interested in this, the Martial Powers playtest document that we're looking at here, you can drift through my Patreon here. Here's the playtest content. If you click on this stream, you'll be right here right now. Otherwise, this Martial Powers button, this is available. It's open. Right now, I have playtesting open to the public. It's on a read-only document here on my Patreon. As you can see, it's the exact same document that we're looking at here right now. So if that's something you're interested in, you are welcome to peel that thing open and read along with us while we work today. So we're working on the Ranger today, and the way that Rangers work, they are long rest. They have long rest mana recovery. They gain 2 mana per level. They are hybrid points, 2 through 40 points. And the reason why they're called hybrid is because they're both spellcasters and they can channel power. In the player's handbook, of course, they are half casters. They gain casting at first level, 5th level, 2nd, 3rd level at 9th, 4th level at 13th, and then 5th level is 17th level. The powers work the same way. We've made all of the casters prep casters to balance with the druid, the cleric, the artificer, and the wizard. We're going to see what they do with sorcerer, and the paladin is prep. The ranger is now in the player's handbook being allowed to swap out 1 spell per long rest. We are under the philosophy that you should be able to switch them all out so they're on equal footing with other casters. There is nothing in the ranger's kit that says that they should not be full prep casters. Like, their kit is weak. So giving them the flexibility of being able to swap out all spells when they finish a long rest is the least that we could do. So they gain 2 spells or powers at first, because you can learn powers or spells and switch and swatch them as you please. So at first you have 2, you'll end up with 16. All subclasses. Let's tool down here to get our screens set up with the power list, and then here's our list of powers. There's 171 currently in the game. 115 of them require mana, and the other 50 some odd don't require mana at all. And then let's scroll past the power list. The way it's currently organized is that all the powers and options that you can use in preparing powers is up front, and then the characters that can use them, so you have context for like what are all these things that you can do, and then what changes did we make to the classes specifically to exploit this stuff. And then you can see here, like the barbarian, all subclasses have 10 powers. You can see here that some of them listed as feats, sustain powers, damage, reactions, strikes, as well as exploits. So these are the classes. Let's tool down to the ranger, because we've seen a number of changes with the ranger. So once we get down there, I don't know how long I'm going to need to be here today. We're not diving into specific subclasses right now. The way that we have all of the subclasses for all the martial classes in this book currently, but the player's handbook is only offering us 4 of each class. So I'm thinking when this publishes, I'll reduce the amount of classes to just the 4 that are in the player's handbook, and then I can start releasing additional content as kickers and coupons for folks to get more stuff that they like. And as the new classes get rolled out with official content in the future, with Tasha's 2 and Xanathar's Take 2 or whatever, we'll see more of this stuff expressed, and we'll be able to just swap it out as we proceed. I'm really looking forward to the monk, because it is the hottest mess of all the classes in D&D. But let's get past all the traditions in the monk. We dealt with the paladin last week, so you can go check episode 148 for that. Episode 149 was rogues and warlocks from Monday and Tuesday rather, and now we're looking at the ranger. So let's see. Let's grab these revisions here. Okay, spellcasting level 1. We have that too. Can prepare more spells now than they could learn before, and they can switch out. This is garbage. Switch out 1 per day. If paladins can swap out all spells, rangers should be able to as well. Favorite enemy. You always have Hunter Mark prepared, and you can cast Hunter's Mark twice per long rest without expending a spell slot. This number increases as you level up. Okay, so we have a replacement for that. Let's go look at the changes that we have made to Hunter's Mark and Favorite Enemy. So Mark of Prey, first level feature. This replaces Hunter's Mark spell, replaces the Favorite Enemy feature, and Favored Foe optional class features. Obviously, when 2024 gets published, we'll clean up this language here. But here's how it works. A sustain, just for those that don't know, when you gain ranks of power, you can have, as a half caster, right? You can have up to 5 at 17. There's a power die, and the power die is like a martial arts die, or a bard's inspiration die, or a battle master's superiority die. It serves that same function. It starts with a D6 at level 1. At 9th level, it upgrades to a D8, and at 17th level, it upgrades to a D10. The way that it works is that if we're talking about damage, so the amount of points that you can invest in a power at any given time is going to be whatever your max rank is. So you can put in 1 point of anything at first level, which means you can only access things that require 1 point. At 5th level, you can have up to 2nd rank of power, which means you can put up to 2 points in any particular power at any time. 3 at 9th, 4 at 13th, and then 5 at 17th. If you're dealing damage with a power, generally the language is going to be the roll a number of dice equal to the mana spent, and add up those numbers. That's how much damage is added to your damage roll. If it was a modifier to a saving throw, an ability check, an attack roll, or like armor class, then it's going to be roll a die for every point of mana spent and take the highest result of that, take the highest number rolled of the dice that you spend and add the highest result to your die roll. That way you don't have ability checks that are D10, 5d10, like add plus 50 to your stealth check. No, at best it's going to be add 10. And after 2 mana, it becomes really debatable if the extra point is worth it. If you spend 2 mana on any kind of exploit that boosts die rolls, if you roll 2 dice, there's a good chance, a little bit more than a 50% chance that you're going to roll above, say you're going to roll 6 or above on a 10-sided die, or 4 or above on a 6er, or 5 or above on a D8. So just about a 50% chance of that. So if you throw 2 dice, spending 2 mana in the process, chances are you're going to get 5 or better on a D8, for instance. So there's not a lot of motive for you to spend 5 mana to roll 5 dice and keep only 1 of them, unless this is a real holy shit moment and you absolutely have to rock it. So, and if you have the mana to do so, you're welcome to. So the actual powers themselves, the way that they work is the exploits, like we were talking about, modify die rolls. They also modify actions. Like if you're taking an action, it lets you do something extra. Or if you are rolling dice, you get to modify those dice. Or if you're moving, you get to add something to your movement. Maneuvers are, and exploits don't require their own actions. They are just added, they're like kicker effects that are added to something that you're already doing. So no exploits have their own action. They modify your actions. So if I had an ability that allowed me to, like, say, use a bonus action and I can fly for a turn, for instance, and I could then spend mana on that, and then since I'm moving, I could use a movement exploit on top of it. So if I'm 5th level, I could use a maneuver that, like, say, gave me movement for 2 mana, and then I could spend another 2 mana to use an exploit that would modify that movement further. So you'll see those things crop up. So exploits don't have their own actions, they modify actions in die rolls. Maneuvers can be used as actions, bonus actions, or both in the same turn, same power. It's basically things that affect other people, either by pointing and clicking at them and they have to make a saving throw or something bad happens, or if it's an ally, it could be like I point and click and now they can use their reaction to attack or move, or I could like point and click and they automatically stabilize if they're dying. But they're actions and bonus actions, so I can mix up what my action economy is based on what my maneuvers can do. Reactions are self-explanatory, they're reactions. If a trigger condition occurs, then you have what your response is. And a number of them are categorized as opportunity attacks. Because instead, if somebody provokes an opportunity attack from you, you could potentially utilize one of these opportunity reactions instead of just an attack. Like if somebody makes an attack roll that's within reach of your melee weapon, you could, as an opportunity attack, make a die roll, and if your die roll is higher than theirs, then you parry their attack, for instance. And then strike powers are like paladin smite spells or divine smite, where you spend mana, you deal extra damage, and it has a kicker effect. And these things happen on hit. So just like in the 2014 paladin divine strike, when you hit, you can dump mana on top of it automatically to deal extra damage and cause a trigger effect. There is no double stacking on that. And then sustained powers are like self-buffing concentration effects that can be triggered as an action or bonus action, and they don't require concentration, and you can stack them. So if you are 9th level and your max rank is 3, you can sustain up to 3 mana worth of sustained powers at the same time. A single 3rd rank power, a 2nd rank, and a 1st rank power, or 3 1st rank powers. You can stack your buffs onto your character, and once you spend the mana for them, it stays on basically until you either are incapacitated or start a long rest. And if you are sustaining effects, if your class like a monk, fighter, barbarian, rogue, if you would normally get mana back on a short rest in your sustaining powers, you don't get mana back for the powers for the mana that's sustaining powers. That stuff's considered tapped, and until it's untapped, you can't recover it at all. So that's a balancing factor. But martial characters are meant to be in combat and getting hit. So we want to have reliable action loops that the characters won't have disrupted from them. Concentration, that's for casters that aren't necessarily on the front line. The cleric is an exception to that. Clerics don't have to be frontline fighters, but if they are going to be maintaining concentration because they're full casters. That's just how that works. A ranger, if they're casting a spell that requires concentration, if you're sustaining powers that are filling up all of your ranks, you can't cast that spell. Otherwise, you can cast, if there's any ranks open, like if you want to maintain concentration on a second level spell, you have to have at least 2 ranks, you have to have at least 2 mana open for you to do that. And you would then maintain constant, like invisibility, for instance. I'm going to concentrate on invisibility. Then I'm going to turn that on. I'll concentrate it like normal. But if I had all of my ranks full of sustained powers, I would have to dismiss one of those powers to open up space for me to cast a concentration spell. So there's a lot of mechanical changes that we get to make to the ranger as a result of this. But just before we move on into that, I also want to point out that if your characters, for people that like simple characters that don't have to fiddle with spells and mana pools and all that stuff, we got you covered. Because what you could do instead is we have meta powers. The easiest one to grok are feats. Here's 32 feats, and once the Player's Handbook updates in September, we'll revise this list. But here's 32 feats that are martial and downtime activities sort of related stuff, and you can basically just pick as many of these as you want. At first level, you have 2 powers that you can know. So I could pick, like, for instance, I could pick up Sharpshooter, and I could pick up, I don't know, what would be another fun one? Maybe Crossbow Expert. So I could pick up CBE, and I could pick up Sharpshooter, and now my Ranger is pretty much good to go as an archer at first level with a lot of really good feats. If it's a half feat that would normally grant you an ability improvement, you don't get the improvement. But these are all prepared, so you can swap out your feats that you gain as powers, so that the ability score increase that you get at 4th level, 8th level, 12th level, etc., you can actually use those to improve your ability scores because you don't have to spend them on feats anymore. And hey, Rolf. Rel is cool. People have bad taste. I love your nickname. That's fantastic. What did you miss? I'm just walking through some of the front end stuff. You can check the end of the list, but I was basically walking through how power works, what the different powers are, and like how you'd spend the powers that you could prepare. So we're about to get into the Ranger stuff. So if you don't want to mess around with mana and you don't want to have to prepare stuff, you could just spend all of your prepared powers and spells instead on feats. There's also damage that you can, magical damage that you can deal. At first level, you can deal basic, elemental damage, acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison. Anytime you make an attack, if you've prepared one of these powers, if you're using a weapon that you're proficient with, including natural weapons and unarmed attacks, if you've chosen, say, cold damage, then instead of dealing whatever the weapon damage would normally deal, it'll automatically deal cold damage instead. But you can choose. It could be weapon damage or cold damage. It's just an option that you've prepared that you can implement whenever you want. And at 5th level, there's advanced options. Force, Necrotic, Psychic, Radiant, Thunder. Since there's so many, since vulnerability, resistance, and immunity it's kind of a meta, it's like a meta game where some creatures will be able to change what their resistances and immunities are just as quickly as characters can change what kind of damage they can deal. So the example I used last time was if you go into an ice cave and you find a bunch of ice trolls in there and you didn't prepare, say they're vulnerable to lightning damage, but fire and acid don't do anything particular to them. You have to hit them with lightning to prevent them from regenerating. You go in there, you fight them, you hit them with the fire, it hurts them, but then they regenerate back. Fuck! I gotta retreat. So the team can retreat, and then when you have an opportunity to swap out some of your powers, you could pick up lightning damage. But maybe the Troll Chieftain has a resistance power, so they could swap their lightning resistance to fire. So your team goes in knowing that fire doesn't do anything particular to you. So your marshals have loaded up on lightning damage, and sure, the mooks are getting hit by that, but the chieftain is now immune to lightning damage, and he instead has swapped it into, like, say, cold damage. Or maybe cold damage would make sense because it's an ice cave, but, like, say, thunder damage instead. So unless your team has thunder damage, it won't be effective. So the DM can play cat and mouse with the players like that. So it's worth players' time to invest in different types of damage so that they can cover their bases and adapt to the situation as needed. Plus, all the strikes deal specific types of damage, like Thundering Strike deals thunder damage, Shocking Strike deals lightning damage. So in the moment, you can use particular damage types, but this is a means of being able to lean more into damage matters, and that because you can keep swapping it out, and your characters have can swap out prepared powers, some of them on a short rest. So there's always this utility that's available to them. So how much will martial powers cost? I don't know yet. Maybe $12, $13 on DMsGuild. It'll end up getting bundled in with all the other books that are in the series. And if you want to see it already, the color mana spell point variant rules are here. It's originally designed for color mana, so that all like the spellcasters have the color mana system where, like, if you want to throw a fireball, you use a point of red magic and then 2 points of any other color. So here's your damage type breakdown by colors. Here's the aspects of colors using the Magic the Gathering color wheel, right? The 5 colors of Magic the Gathering. Using the premise that, like for example, white is like divinity, healing, light, protection, restraint. Green is like animals, also healing, plants, nature, and spirits. And then you look at black. Black has like soul and spirits, like green and black are kind of related, and green and white are kind of related. Black has control, while, say, white has restraint. Blue has suppress, which is kind of like restraint, but it's different. And so these all, when you take these different effects and the damage types, you can blend them together to basically have a color palette for what your spells are. And this is an option. This can either just be a narrative. This could either just be a descriptive narrative mechanic, or you can literally take your spell points and say, like, I've got 15 red mana, 6 black mana, and 5 green mana. And that's how. And then you'd be able to spend points like that. And whenever you finish a short rest, you can swap your colors. Or you could go with an elemental system of air, earth, fire, water. If you're playing The Last Airbender, each of your characters could be aligned to a different element, or if there's only one of you in your D&D party, like the Avatar, you could blend air, like 10 points of air, 4 points of fire, 6 points of earth, and I'm going to play those different elements together. As long as you still have mana available in in that aspect of magic, you can cast that spell. So, and just to sum up this hybrid here, healing word, for instance, healing was white, healing was green, so it's available in both white and green. So if you had a point of white or a point of green, it's a first level spell. You only need 1 point. As long as it's either white or green, you could cast healing word. And when you finish a short or long rest, you could completely refigure what colors any mana that you have are. When you recover mana, you just assign a color to it. Or you could just go with universal mana, where it's just spell points, like in the DMG, where you just spend it on anything, whether you're using the 8 schools of magic, the 5 color magic system from MTG, the 4 elemental system. There's also the 3 body system, where you have mind, spirit, and body. It's like physical attacks, mental attacks, and then like control stuff. You could break it down into a triad like that. There's a lot of different ways you can just make up, like paper, rock, scissors, for God's sake. The magic, they're called magic paradigms. The 8 schools of magic is the generic magic default paradigm for Dungeons and Dragons, and the spell points are universal. You could spin it on any school, because there's 8 schools. That's a little ridiculous. You generally don't want to have more than 5 aspects to a magic system, because it gets too wide and shallow. So you want to be able to adapt it so that you're curving into optimizing your pool, which you could do by researching things to be in a different color, or you could learn it twice. If I wanted Goodberry to be a black spell instead of white and green, I could learn Goodberry, and then I could learn it again and choose, instead of white and green, it could be black. So, but it's, in the long run, it's better for you to spend downtime and gold to research the spell, or to find scrolls or whatever that you can learn and incorporate into your spell list. So, like having a contact at a library where you can do research, or like in Ravnica, having access to a guild, that would allow you basically access to research time so you can get all the spells bent into the colors that are associated with like your Strixhaven college, for instance, like Silver Quill is white-black. So you could go to Silver Quill libraries and research, how can I get Expeditious Retreat into the Silver Quill color pool? So that's now you're spending downtime in Strixhaven studying spells as a student so that you can optimize, like you go to Arcavios specifically so you can research spells to bend them into your color pool. And as martial characters, you can now participate in Mage Tower. So when you go there, you're not going there maybe necessarily to learn how to bend a spell, but you're learning how to channel and cultivate the mana inside of yourself for physical effects. But this thing will be this will be bundled with all the other color mana stuff. So once it's done, all 13 classes can use the same magic paradigm across all 13. So it'll probably be $15 on its own, and then once I bundle it in with this, it'll be like $12 instead. We'll see. It depends on the page count and how much artwork and effort I need to put into it. But generally, it's somewhere between my stuff. When it gets around 70 to 100 some odd pages, tends to be somewhere between 10 and 20 pages, just depending on how heavy it is. But that's the magic paradigms in a nutshell for you guys. So like when we're talking about like building a ranger, we could talk about like a Golgari ranger, which is black and green. So the ranger is naturally going to be picking up spells that are black and green, and then either double learning or researching them with druids or whatever to learn those spells to be in its color palette. Hey, let me catch up real quick. So can a mana system work with spell slots at the same time? Yeah, it can. Like one player, yeah, absolutely. The only problem is that spell slots are like pre-bundled spell points, right? But when you bundle it up as a spell slot, you would use a narrative system, because like a fireball requires 3 mana, but only 1 point of it needs to be red. The other 2 points could be anything you want. That allows you to diversify your color pool. If you're just going to go with spell slots, you've already taken away the freedom of being able to cast ad hoc. So if you're using spell slots, I recommend that you just go with narrative. So when you spend that spell slot, you're choosing is going to be a white spell, a green spell, a red spell, depending on what's in your color palette. You would just say, that's what I'm spending, because your restriction is in the spell slots. If I run out of first level spell slots, I now have to spend 2 points of mana when I would have only had to have spent 1 point. That's like the Warlock problem of not being able to downcast stuff. But like in the Spell Point Sorcerer book or the Spell Point Warlock book that we have, it has the spell points. Like you gain for your pack magic first level. By the time you get to 9th level and have access to 5th level spells, you could still only spend 1 spell point for like Mage Armor, like a first level spell. It's like you get a lot of flexibility from the spell points. So a way to curb that flexibility is to have mana pool colors. Like if I only have 3 points of red mana, as soon as I use up those 3 points, I can't cast Fireball anymore. Like that's a different type of balance than what spell slots provide. So spell slots are simple, so they should be narratively focused. Spell points give you a lot of leverage and power. So I recommend using some sort of power magic paradigm that requires you to break up your mana pool into separate little pools to pay for the stuff, or to make you pay research money and time so you can curve all of your spells to be like just black. Like I've been in the game for so long and my character's studied magic for so long, every spell that he has, all of them only require black mana. And now I'm basically universal spell points are just black. So it's at low levels, you have to break stuff up. It helps curb the paradigm, the disparity between casters and marshals. Casters have to pay a lot of attention to what their mana is, and while marshals don't, basically. Marshals just get to narrate what color it is. So, but that's a quick crash course in mana paradigms. So, let's see. Magic is damage types. Oh yeah, and then we have combat masteries. So combat masteries is a 0 cost, basically weapon cantrip. The ones that have like cleave, graze, nick, push, slow, topple, those are from from the new 2024. We're adding in step, which is when you hit something, you can take a 5-foot step without provoking an opportunity attack. Impair, which is target makes a con save and is blinded or deafened if it fails until the end of its next turn. Grapple, when you're using a weapon, you can automatically grapple with that weapon. That's like the samurai, like when they cut at you with a katana, they catch your arm and then they put you into an arm lock using the blade of their weapon. So like your arm is locked up, but it's got the sword going through your joint. I love doing that shit. So much fun using weapons and grappling techniques. So that's what the grapple mastery lets you do. And then disarm, saving throw, or you lose a weapon. Two-handed, save with advantage. And then addle, constitution save, or you can't take opportunity attacks until the end of your next turn. And there's so many reactions in the system that allow for opportunity attacks. Addle is actually really effective. So the way that it works, all the weapons that are in the player's handbook are only going to use the official weapon masteries. The way that we've changed it is that you, as a power, you can learn one of these combat masteries. If you do, you can always use in whichever one however many you've chosen. You can choose all 13 if you want by like level 14. By level 12, you can choose them all if you want to, but like why would you? But you can learn them all, and if you've prepared that power, if you've prepared that mastery, you can use it with any weapon. It doesn't matter. Kind of like how fighters can at higher level. Off the cuff, everyone is, if you're proficient with the weapon that you're using, including unarmed strikes and natural attacks, if you've prepared, say, addle, it doesn't matter what the weapon is, you can always addle somebody. If you've prepared cleave, you can always cleave. You can cleave with a knife. I can cut your throat and then continue to attack through to cut somebody else's throat just as easily as I can with an axe. It's not a requirement. So, but you can pick any of these, disarm, impair, whatever, to know. And once you have them prepared, you can always use it with any kind of an attack that you're proficient with. Beyond that, weapons, the ones with the asterisks, are going to have weapon masteries built into them. Like it'll have, like the battle axe, for instance, has cleave. The change that we make is you don't have to learn these masteries. Your martial characters already fucking know how to use these weapons. These weapon properties become a part of being proficient. So, as it lists down here, weapon masteries are as presented in the player's handbook. While weapons retain their masteries as listed in the player's handbook, you do not need to learn the mastery if a weapon has any. If you're proficient with that weapon, you can also use the mastery of the weapon that's possessed. So, like a wizard, for instance, could pick up and use a crossbow and fire it if he wants. But unless he's proficient in using that crossbow, he's not going to be able to use the push feature. So non-martials are already siloed into what kind of weapons they can use. We're allowing them to use the weapon mastery for free. Most full casters are going to want to use their cantrips anyway. But if they want to, they can pick some of these things up. Full casters can't learn powers at all. But anyone that has a weapon can use that. So that's the different stacks of things that we have. Now that we've walked through how that works, how sustained powers work, the gist of the system, we can actually look at how we've changed Ranger. So let me make sure I'm caught up. Yep. How much? Yeah. Yep. I'm caught up. So it'll probably be like December, maybe even January before the thing actually publishes. My shit has a very, very long cooking time, but I do it all here on screen, so you guys can watch the entire process with me. So let's look at the Ranger. We had updates from 2024 for what the Ranger is now. We already know that spellcasting has been resolved. Favored enemy has been favorite enemy here for 2024. It utilizes the Hunter's Mark, and well, there you go. Hunter's Mark basically. What does it do according to PHP? It gives you you choose a creature that you can see within range. You mark it. You can deal an extra D6 damage whenever you hit it with weapon attack, and you have an advantage on Wisdom Perception and Wisdom Survival checks that you can make to find it. The target drops to 0 hit points before the spell ends. You can swap it to another creature. It requires concentration and only lasts an hour. Let's do better. So we already know that we can mix any number of spell casting and channeling powers that are from this book and the normal class selection. Mark of Prey, first level feature, replaces Hunter's Mark spell, the favorite enemy feature, and the favored foe optional class feature from Tasha's. Okay, so this is how it works. Starting at first level, you gain 1 point of temporary mana. that you can use as a bonus action to mark a creature that you can see as its prey. The mark can be sustained as a first rank power. That while sustained, you can use a bonus action to mark a different creature as your prey. You can use your bonus action this way immediately when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, applying any additional effects gained by mark of prey to the creature you hit. So it's a sustained power. We talked about this. At first level, when you get access to us, you only have 1 rank of power, which means you can only sustain 1 rank of powers. You only get 2 mana per day, but Hunter's Mark is free. You get a free point of temporary mana that can specifically be spent to sustain Mark of Prey. So once you turn on Mark of Prey, it stays on all day unless you are incapacitated, and then when you begin a long rest, it shuts down. So it doesn't require concentration. It just works. But it's tying up your sustained power slot. So you can't do all the other cool shit that sustained powers would let you do. Like, here's some of the things that you could do at first level if you had available power to you. Adaptive resistance. For 1 point of mana, you can gain resistance to acid, cold, fire, thunder, or lightning damage. And then if it was 2 mana, you could have an advanced form, or you can gain natural resistance. Aquatic anatomy. While sustaining this power, you can breathe water and you gain a swim speed, equal to double your walking speed. In addition, you have no penalties to a melee attack rolls while underwater. Blind Sense. It's 10 feet per max rank of power that you have. So it's 10 feet at first level. It becomes 20 feet at 5th level, 30 feet at 9th level, up to 50 feet at 17th level. Cliff Runner. You gain a climb speed equal to your walking speed, and you can climb this way without using your hands. It's like monk walking, right? Super useful. All sorts of cool stuff in here. And empowered ability. While sustaining this power, choose 1 ability score. You have advantage when rolling checks and saves for the chosen power. In addition, while this power is sustained, you can roll 1 power die per mana spent, up to your max channel limit, adding the highest roll to the result of an ability check or a saving throw of the chosen power. So if, like, intelligence is my dump stat, I could empower my intelligence so I'm always rolling with advantage. And as needed, I could throw a point of mana on top of it to roll a power die. At first level, my power die is a D6. It then becomes a D8 and then a D10. So you're basically doing worse inspiration than the Bard is, but you can do it ad hoc without using action economy, and you can only do it on yourself. You can't share it with other people, and it's not quite as strong as what the Bard offers. But it's a good mechanic overall. It's a really strong, good buff. But like at first level, that would be the only thing that you would be able to do. Instead, the Ranger is going to default to Mark of Prey. You turn it on. You can channel it for free, and you turn it on. It stays on. It turns on, and you can select things as a bonus action. When you hit something with an attack, you can use your bonus action to swap it over. If that foe dies, whenever you have a bonus action available, you still have it sustained. Bonus action, I just click it onto you, and now you are my Mark of Prey. So here's the effects of the Mark of Prey. We're legit back. Yeah. The Book of 9 Swords and 4E list of powers were a huge inspiration for this book. And this is giving us the same breadth of options with the flexibility of preparation between mana powers, combat masteries, damage types, and feats, that you've got a ton of stuff that you could decide to kit your character out to do exactly what you want them to do at any level of play, and you can fuck around with your action economy to create action loops for yourself, which we've spent some time talking about, like maybe around episode 142 and episode 130. Go back into the Wayback Machine and check out the list. But here's what Mark of Prey does. Once you turn it on and you've selected somebody to be your mark, while sustaining Mark of Prey, you gain advantage with attacks targeting your prey. That's my timer. In addition, you have advantage to intelligence investigation and wisdom checks involving insight, perception, survival checks against that target. And when you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain 1 temporary point of damage to immediately channel a strike. So we know, we've discussed before, that at first level you're rolling a D6, which jives with what Hunter's Mark is, right? We're allowing you more advantages to attack as well as tracking stuff. Hunter's Mark here, as you can see, it deals an extra d6 of damage. The way that we convert that is we make it a strike power. So if your ranger would have an extra d6 damage that they could automatically deal to a target. And if they know a strike power, they could apply the effect of that strike on that target. So as a list of examples of different powers that exist, strikes, these are really, really fun. There's a fuck ton of them at first level. Here's you can't use masteries and strikes on the same attack. So you can either choose the martial cantrip of a combat mastery for free, or you can spend mana to perform a strike. It's just the ranger gets a free point to spend on a strike for free. So here's the different strikes that you can do. Like what's some good ones? Freezing strike. Your weapon can deal cold damage and adds 1 power die per mana of additional cold damage. And again, we have 1 power die means that you're going to be dealing an extra d6, and it'll be cold damage, and all of your weapon damage can also be cold, or it can just be left as normal damage if you want. The creatures, and in addition, the creature's movement is reduced by half, round down, and to an increment of 5, minimum of 0, until the end of its next turn. Another one is, say, Shocking Strike. Your weapon can deal lightning damage. You add 1 power die per mana channeled. The creature cannot take opportunity attacks until the end of the next turn. You see the difference there? If we go back down to the masteries, Addle. Target makes a Constitution saving throw, and if it fails, it can't take OA attacks until the end of the turn. You can do that for free forever as a combat mastery that you have prepared. But if you decide to spend mana on the Shocking Strike effect, it's worth it because there's no saving throw. They automatically lose OA, and it deals the extra die of damage on top of it. So even if you just deal the damage, the kicker effect is fantastic. Almost all of these just automatically just do something to your target. But then it either ends at the end of the round, or at the end of their turn they get to make a saving throw, which is when a BBEG's legendary resistance would kick in. You could stun or shock or paralyze or whatever using the system, and the boss is fucked for their round. But at the end of their turn, when they would get to make their saving throw, that's when they can click legendary action into effect, and they get freed up. Like, I can't do anything this turn. Great, my turn's over. Legendary resistance. I'm now free of that. I can now make reactions if anybody triggers any. So a DM allows players to have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Agency in combat, because their shit's not just going to get constantly shut down by legendary resistance. You're spending mana. It's gonna stick for at least one round, giving you the benefit of that ability. It's then that creatures can get out of it. Like a lot of monsters, I automatically succeed Constitution saving throws, but I got fucked for a round in the first place, so I don't have to worry about it. So you can mess around with action economy. I call them wards, where you either have to pay an extra price, or there's a caveat to the saving throw that goes along with it. That's a Magic the Gathering term. But then the other one I want to point out is the martial strike. So like I said, normally you can't mix strikes with combat masteries, but the martial strike power, you deal weapon damage. It increases by 1 power die per mana spent, and you can use 1 combat mastery that you have prepared, or that is a property of the weapon that you can hit with. So like martial strike is like just a generic strike that you can decide to pick up, that you can always use with your combat masteries, and it just works. So there you go. So you can pick that one up and it'll automatically work for you. Back to what the Mark of Prey does. So we already know that you have advantage on attacks as well as intelligence and wisdom. That means that a rogue could easily dip into ranger to pick up this mark for assassinating or attacking something with sneak attack. Keep in mind, again, this is going to require you to eat up all of your sustained power, so you're losing out on a lot of self-boost buffing effects that you could get right out the gate. Like a rogue would want bonuses, like empowered ability. Like a rogue putting intelligence or dexterity with empowered ability is going to give you advantage every time, like you pick locks or stealth or climb, whatever it is that you're working with. So it kind of balances itself out. But I encourage multi-classing to be able to stack up stuff like that. So when you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain 1 temporary mana to immediately channel a strike. You can make an opportunity attack against your prey without using, you can make an opportunity attack against your prey without using your reaction once before the beginning of your next turn. When you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain 1 point. You can make an opportunity attack against your prey. Oh, that's right. You basically get a free opportunity attack. While they're marked, you get a free opportunity attack against that prey once before the beginning of your next turn. You can make an opportunity attack against your prey without using your reaction. You know what? I think I need to get rid of that. If you're honest, because that's going to break. It isn't necessary. So that's overclocking the ability. I need to get rid of that. If you aren't sustaining the mark of prey when you finish a short rest, you regain that temporary point so you can cast it again. And again, you have a mana pool, so if you lose it somehow, you could always just use your mana to do it again. And then, starting at 7th level, as a ranger, you can sustain Mark of Prey while you're unconscious and during a long rest. You don't regain the point of temporary mana while Mark of Prey is sustained this way. The Marked Prey can make a saving throw versus your channeling DC at the end of each 24 hours to escape the effect of the mark. And then at 13th level, check this out. So we had, what do we have? Way down here, we have Relentless Hunter. At 13th level, damage no longer threatens to break your concentration. Well, we don't even require concentration for Hunter's Mark in the first place. You just spend the point, you fucking have it. And then on top of that, you can do it while you're asleep at 7th level, but at 13th level, instead of being allowed to maintain concentration if you take damage, what we allow you to do is while sustaining this mark, you can mark a different creature as your play as part of an attack without using a bonus action, and you can do so once during your turn. In addition, you can score a critical hit against your prey on a roll of 19 or 20. That's our 13th level answer. And then, so let's see. Let's keep peeling through stuff. Let's see. Favorite enemy that got replaced. Weapon mastery doesn't matter because if the weapon has a mastery property and you're proficient with it, you automatically can use them. On top of that, you can decide to prepare combat masteries from the expanded list that we just showed you if you want. So this becomes redundant and replaceable. The weapon mastery, redundant and passable. This got removed, so who cares? Deft Explorer, gain expertise in 1 skill. And that's really fantastic. There's no reason for me to change that. That's going to stay as is, so no need to mention it. Fighting styles. So yeah, we get fighting styles at 2nd level. You can take Druidic Warrior to gain access to cantrips. You can choose any 2 fighting styles that you want. It's a type of feat. We created 2 custom fighting styles. So we'll see exactly how the dual fighting mechanics work in the player's handbook once it comes out. But the way that works for us is when dual wielding weapons, you can use any 2 one-handed melee weapons you're proficient with or unarmed attacks without penalties, using the attack action with 1 weapon and a bonus action with the other. There is the Nick property, that allows you to attack with 2 weapons as a single attack. You can do that, but that requires you to be using light weapons. This you could do with 2 battle axes. If it's not useful for you, skip it. But at 6th level, when using extra attacks, you can choose to attack with either weapon. And then at 11th level, when you hit with a weapon attack, you can use your bonus action to also roll damage for the second weapon as part of that attack roll, combining the results of both weapons together. If the attack is ranged, both weapons must be thrown to benefit from this option. Because you can throw 2 axes. Ranged prowess is the archery fighting style, and this one goes like this. So normally you can't channel strikes with ranged weapons. Normally you can only, just like paladin smites, you can only channel powers. You can only channel strike powers if it's a melee weapon, whether it's held in melee or it's thrown. Typically you can only use melee weapons. But the ranger, if you take ranged prowess, you can use strikes with your ranged bow as long as they're within normal range. Starting at 6th level, You can make opportunity attacks with your thrown and ranged weapons against targets within 10 feet as though you're wielding a weapon with the reach property. So I can now make opportunity attacks up to 10 feet away on targets if I have an arrow knocked. Pop! That's what you get for moving. And at 11th level as a ranger, you can channel strikes to ranged weapons at far range. So the crossbow has a 360-foot range. At 11th level, you could then channel like a strike power through it and deal an extra 5d10 damage at 17th level. At 11th level, it would be an extra 3d8 that you could deal. So that's how those work. Ranger subclass, we've got a whole stack of them down below. They're all going to get modified depending on what these end up looking like. Primal awareness was removed. We don't have to worry about that. Roving, we have our cantrip. We have our feat at 4th level, which we can now actually take as an ASI because we can pick as many feats prepared as we want, so we don't have to worry about that. Roving is gain 10 feet of movement speed, and as well as a climb speed and a swim speed. That's fantastic. We don't have to worry about cliff running anymore if we don't want to. And we gain 10 feet of speed. That's a great stat. There's no reason for me to change that. Lancer was removed. 7th level, we got our second archetype feature for our conclave. 5th level, we gain second attack. Oh, that's right, second attack. So 5th level, here's one of the things that we can do. At 5th level, you get a second attack. So optional class feature, empowered attacks. All marshals have this. Beginning at, all the marshals that get extra attack at 5th level get this. Beginning at 5th level, when you take the attack action and you hit with the first attack, you can forego your second attack to gain a point of mana that you can then channel as a strike. So if I hit you, instead of making a second attack, I can channel any strike power that I know. So like restraining, thundering strike. I deal thunder damage at a die of damage, and I can push the creature 10 feet away from me. Like I spend a point of mana, I deal extra damage, and I push him. I could replace my attack roll with that. That doesn't sound very impressive at 5th level. At 5th level, I can channel second rank power, so I could spend 2 mana if I wanted. If it's my marked prey, I get 1 point for free from Mark of Prey, remember? So now I only have to spend 1 mana, and I can channel a second rank power. So I get 2 dice of damage. At 5th level, it'd be 2d6 damage, which is worth it. For 1 point of mana, 2d6 damage, that's worth. Plus, whatever cool shit, like I could pump up Thundering Strike to be 2 mana and push them 20 feet. It only costs me 1 if it's my mark. But here's some of the second rank stuff. Life-Stealing Strike. Your weapon deals necrotic or radiant damage and add 1 power die per mana, which would assumedly at 5th level be 2. In addition, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the result of the power dice rolls. So if I have you marked as my prey, I get a free point of mana every time I hit you. So I can then use Life-Stealing Strike, spend 1 point of mana, get 2 dice out of it. I hit you for either necrotic or radiant damage, my choice. And whatever the result of those 2d6 is, that's how many temporary hit points I get right now. And that continues to refresh every time I use this ability. The only kicker is at low levels I don't have a lot of mana. So at 5th level, if you're my marked prey, I can hit you, I get a free point of mana, and then if I get rid of my second attack, I get a second point of mana for free. So I can channel Life-Stealing Strike forever, for free, against my marked target, dealing 2d6 damage, getting temporary hit points equal to that result, and dealing that damage to on top of my weapon damage, which I could have stacked up with, I don't know what Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter are going to look like, but you can stack these things up with it. So you're getting a ton of free mana just to be able to do stuff and to amp up your character's abilities. Barbarians can do that, fighters can do that, paladins can do that, rangers can do that. But the ranger is always getting that free point of mana whenever you're targeting somebody. Let's see, range prowess. Optional class feature was the empowered attacks. And then let's look at some of the other features inside here. Expertise, I love it. Gain expertise in 2 things. I have no problem with that. Tireless, that's fantastic. I think it's great. There's no reason for me to mess with that. Hide in Plain Sight's gone. Relentless Hunter, this is no longer relevant. See our changes to Mark of Prey. Nature's Veil, use a bonus action to become invisible until the end of your turn. I'm fine with that. That's great. Go ahead and have that. We have a maneuver in here called, what's it called? Vanish, I think? Let's go find it. I think it's second rank. Where did it go? Vanish is first rank. It only costs 1 mana. You become invisible until the beginning of your next turn. There you go. And coincidentally, since they're getting rid of Vanish as a feature, that now makes that ability make sense. So yeah, your ranger could pick this up, and now it doesn't say it ends for any reason. It just lasts until the beginning of your next turn. Super useful. For 1 mana, it only lasts 1 round. Expensive. Like that's something you would pick up like around level 9 plus, because you'll have enough mana in your pool that you can just choose to do this when you need to. Super useful. Let's see. Vanish. Precise Hunter. Get advantage on attack rolls against the creature controlling. See, we already get that. We already get advantage on attacks. This is a worthless 17th level feature. Jesus, it's so worthless. Feral Senses. Streamlined not be blind sight. 30 feet. That's not bad. For free, I'll take that. Epic Boon. Sure. Here's the joke. Foe Slayer. Instead of rolling a D6 on Hunter's Mark, you get a single D10. Wow, who cares? Here's our death mark. 20th level. While Mark of Prey is sustained, if it can only be disrupted if you die. And you can score a critical hit when you hit your prey on a roll of 18, 19, or 20. In addition, now keep in mind, normally our power die is a D6, D8, and D10 at 17th level. But while Mark of Prey is active and you're targeting your mark, you can add a D12 to the attack and damage rolls that you make, as well as the intelligence and wisdom checks that you make against your prey. When you channel a strike against your prey, you're rolling D12s instead of D10s. So you could, at 17th level, dump 5 mana into Thundering Strike. Deal 5d12 damage for 5 mana and punt them 50 feet. So that's how that stuff works. And that's the breakdown for the Ranger. Where are we at? We're almost at an hour. So all these features, there you go. We've already outdone, in my own opinion, we've outclocked the changes that they made to Ranger. We've built it into a system that's consistent across all the marshals, and it makes being a Ranger super fucking worth it, because you're getting that free mana and you're getting advantages to be able, like literally advantages to target a foe. Let me double check this here. I'll catch up with you in a second. Effects. While sustaining Mark of Prey, you gain advantage with attacks targeting your prey, as well as intelligence. When you hit your prey with a weapon attack, you gain 1 temporary point of mana to channel a strike. If you aren't sustaining the Mark of Prey when you finish a sustain, you can regain the point of mana to cast it again. There you go. Cool. So that's the features. What we need to do now is go through the subclasses, because the way that this mark is built, it says that you can channel this with a strike power. So I need to make sure that the Ranger always has a strike power at first level that they can channel for free. I don't know if I had the foresight of doing that, but that's a fun process that we can go through now with all the classes. So let's see. Solid Capstone, just good. Yeah, thanks. Do you feel marshals are now more versatile than casters with this book? Or maybe not more versatile, but have more choices at their disposal? Potentially. There's 500 some odd spells in the player's handbook, or in D&D 5e currently. Half casters like paladins and rangers typically have access to 70 to 100 of them, depending on what their subclasses and stuff are. Like Ravnica, Strixhaven backgrounds, those give you an extra 10 spells, plus whatever your subclasses can give you up to 10 spells. And then you just have the spells that you can just naturally prepare. Like a paladin can typically prepare like 14 or 15 spells, plus the spells they get like from Strix, which will be an extra 10. That's 25. Plus their subclass gives them another 10. So a paladin, a good charisma paladin, can legit have 35 spells prepared. That's a lot of fucking powers. That's a lot of spells. So this isn't ramping that up anymore. You're going to cap with knowing 16 of them. But if your question is like, do they have like more options? Yeah, they have a ton of low-level options. As you go up in ranks, you'll see less and less options available to you. Like let's look at exploits. First off, exploits only go to 4th rank. The Arcane Trickster and the Eldritch Knight only have levels 1 to 4 as spellcasting. So if you chose those classes, you gain access to those spells, but it slows your martial power progress so that you only gain powers at first, 7, 13, and 19. So if you really want to cast spells as an Eldritch Knight, you can, but it's going to slow your martial power progress as well. So it all curves together. So you'll still have all those abilities available. Those come to you a little bit more slowly. But like these exploits, for instance, because your maximum level is 4 as an Eldritch Knight or Trickster, then we need to make sure that all of these are available to them within both of the scaffolds. So if you're a ranger, for instance, you'll have access to all the powers that are in this book by 13th level. Like if you're playing Descent into Avernus, you can use anything that's inside of this book during the tail end of that campaign, as well as your 4th level spells. You might not get to 17th level. For the powers, doesn't matter. For spellcasting, sad that you don't get your 5th level concentration to fire 2 arrows. Whatever. But yeah, like you can see there's only 2 powers at 4th rank, 3 powers at 3rd rank, 4 powers at 2nd rank, and then there's like 19 exploits at 1st rank. This is very much built around assuming you're not going to get past level 10, because very few campaigns do. As a DM in 5th edition, I run a campaign from level 20 in about 250 hours. I've completed 4 campaigns since I started playing 5th edition in 2016. I used to play 3rd edition, and we would play Gestalt epic level characters we would start at 20th level, and we could typically get up to 28th level before we switched it out. And there were Gestalts, so you're pushing 2 classes at the same time, and it's 3rd edition, so like you could have like Savage Species, 20 levels of effective levels on one side, and then like be a wizard on the other side, and like be a celestial wizard. That's a celestial, and tossing around a full 20 levels worth of magic. So anyway, it got sick. So I got really used to, as a DM, I got really comfortable running high-end games for long periods of time. So it's, I've had a lot of, like I first started playtesting this at 16th level. I figured if I can make this work at the high end and make it feel good, then we would be able to eventually reverse engineer it so it also feels good at 1st level, which is where a lot of these like freebie mana mechanics came from. Because at 16, 17, 18, 19th level, you've got a lot of mana being thrown around. You're never hurting for mana. It always feels good because you can do a shitload of stuff. But to have that same sort of fun feeling, it's the free mana that really makes the system sing. But for the most part, characters are only going to be able to use 1st and 2nd rank powers. And even then, it's either going to be maneuvers, exploits, or strikes that are for free. Most of this other stuff is going to cost you a la carte to use. You can look at the maneuvers. There's 9 maneuvers at 1st. There's 6 at 2nd. 4 at 3rd, and then 2 at 4th. Reactions, there's 19 total, 8 at 1st, 6 at 2nd, 3 at 3rd, 2 at 4th. Strikes, 25, 14 at 1st, 6 at 2nd, 3 at 3rd, 4 at 2nd, 2 at 4th level. And then you get the 13 combat masteries, which are kind of like freebie, they're like cantrip strikes, right? And then sustained powers, there's 32 of them. 16 of them are 1st rank. 9 of them are 2nd. 4 of them are 3rd. And then 3 at 4th. So, and this is just the 1st supplement. I can do an infinite number of supplements that add on different unique powers. Like I could do a Book of Dimir, right? Dimir in Ravnica is blue and black magic. They're assassins and mind benders and psychic manipulators. So I could build stuff like spend a point of mana, make them forget the last minute of activity. So you can come up, you could friend them, it goes wrong, you blank them, and then you disappear and they forgot all about it. And as long as that all takes place within 10 rounds, you're solid. Like that would be a kick-ass Dimir power to stack on. I can't imagine a single Dimir that wouldn't just automatically take that. So a lot of neat stuff that can get built into this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of powers that are available. But again, we're looking to build loops out of damage, masteries, feats, as well as mana spend powers. So there is going to be a lot of stuff there. It's I would say at this point it is comparable in flexibility, but has less breadth and utility. It's more everything is basically built around combat and ability checks. So in social and exploration pillars of adventure, these characters are still going to lean a lot on ability checks. It's just now you can spend mana to make those ability checks really fucking good. So if your DM is playing minimum versus maximum, or like tiered successes, where like I need you to find the secret door for the adventure to go. So if you search for a secret door, you'll automatically find it. But if you roll high enough, you'll realize it's trapped as well, for instance. Or you can make a separate roll to see if that door is trapped. But if you rolled high enough to find it in the first place, you'll just automatically find the trap. Like that's called a tiered success, where there's a baseline minimum that you need in the narrative of what it is that they're doing to make sure that the adventure keeps moving forward, so you don't have log jams from failed rolls. But the higher they roll, the more information you can give them about whatever the topic of conversation is, so that they're rewarded for spiking up to high to 30 plus on their ability check. But in this system, you won't ever get more than a plus, well, with a ranger, a plus 12 at 20th level on your mark. Like if you're hunting your mark, you could get an extra 12 added to your investigation check, for instance. And then you can make that your expertise, so you're going to get a plus 6. And your wisdom might be like, say, 18, so it's a plus 4, so that's plus 10. Then a plus D12, plus the D20 that you're rolling. So you're going to be able to ramp up and hit a potential 42 on your die roll if you roll a natural 20. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of options at low levels. But again, all full casters get cantrips that can eventually do what, 4d8, 5d6, 4d10 damage as an attack action. Cantrips get really good at really high levels, and they're free. For us to be able to compete against that sort of stuff, we need to be able to cheat mana into our pool so we can keep up with them with damage that way. Less attacks, you can like a fighter at 20th level can give up 3 attacks to get 3 points of mana for free, an extra 3d10 damage, and a condition effect automatically if I can hit with the first attack. I could use my bonus action to give myself advantage and to re-roll the die roll if I miss the attack to be able to ramp up and almost guarantee I'm going to hit with the first attack. So that's going to give me basically those 3 extra dice that wizards get from their cantrips automatically, that clerics get automatically from the cantrips, that druids get automatically from the cantrips, but they all have to spend their entire action to do that. A fighter can do the same type of damage by having a single attack as their action by sacrificing the other 3. So it actually scales up. The fighter is always staying a step ahead. When you're using strike powers, the Mark of Prey gives you an extra die, and the Paladin gets an extra die as well. So the Paladin and the Ranger can almost keep up with the fighter in being able to consistently output damage, but it will cost them more resources to do it, while a fighter can just do it all day. So those are some really big differences between the martial classes. Even though they have similar mechanics, they express them in different ways. So hopefully that answers your question. But like full casters like have plane shift, teleport, arcane eye, clairvoyance, water walking, water breathing, mass fly spells, polymorph. Their utility is massive. So we're giving you a shitload of options that can be used in combat, exploration, and social through skill checks and attacks to have a wide variety of ways to change the way that you use your character. Similar to how casters can prepare spells to change how they help the party, you can do the same day by day. Let's go in and check out. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to grab this so that we'll have access to powers here. I'm going to go up to strikes. My goal is to give every ranger a free strike at first level because they can use it with their hunter's mark. If push comes to shove, the default can always just be martial strike. But if a particular subclass resonates with a particular type of strike, we will default to that. I may have already done this. I don't remember. Let's find out. These were the changes that they were talking about to the conclaves. They're largely irrelevant. let's see. Trip mastery. This would actually be called topple now. Instead, let's do instead of trip as a mastery. Let's go with let's just go with martial strike. And then Drake Warden, elemental resistance, veteran training, weapon resistance. Oh yeah, these resistances change. Adaptive. This one's called adaptive resistance. Adaptive resistance. It's a +1 power now with a kicker effect. We're going to change this also to martial strike. If you want to read all of this again, for those that didn't know, here's a link to the playtest. It loops through my Patreon. You do not have to be a member of the Patreon at this time to access that. If you click here, you'll see us right now. Hi. Otherwise, martial powers. You click it, and there you go. That's what we've been looking at all day here. So it's a read-only document for you, so you can look, not touch. And again, this will also eventually be on the DMsGuild, of course. So, and once I finish going through these strikes, that's going to be the end of my session. Let's switch this stuff around. Let's go with let's get rid of Azim Strike. Let's go with Omnilinguist, which is a sustained power that lets you communicate with anything that has a language. We're going to push the mobility feat. The reason there's only 5 here is because the Fey Wanderer, it may change in 24, but currently the Fey Wanderer has 5 spells that they get on their prep list, so we wanted them all to have 10. So 5 spells and 5 powers. That's how that works. We're going to go with this Fey Wanderer. Let's go with, what's a cool strike for Fey Wanderer? And then I'll check in on what you're talking about. Let's go with... Delusional Strike is fun. That causes confusion. Deals force or psychic damage, and that, yeah, Psionic Strike is a good one. What's up? So more options for fighting for martials, while casters are more versatile. Right. Exactly. Gloomstalker. The alert feat makes a lot of sense for this dude, but I need to guarantee that they have a feat. So we can get rid of Blind Sense. Subtle Channeling. It's an exploit. Whenever I channel a power, if I spend an extra point on Subtle Channeling, you don't know the power that it came from. Like, obviously, if I'm going to hit you with a martial strike or like a strike power, you're going to know that I just dealt a lot of damage to you. Suck it. But if I like target you with a like a charm effect, or like if I paralyze you or something like that, I'm a Gloomstalker. I want to remain hidden. So subtle channeling makes sure that people don't know where the effect came from. Usually these things have visual cues. Like if I'm a Rakdos barbarian, I'm going to be like covered in black, like black flames, for instance. Or like when I hit, like a burst of black fire surges over my target, for instance. But as a subtle channeling, there'd be no effect. You wouldn't be able to identify that powers were happening unless you felt it. And then you wouldn't know where it came from. It just happens to you. So it's a stealth thing. Gloomstalker, stealthy stuff. What is a smart thing to pick up? Goading Strike, Grappling Strike, Restraining Strike, Shocking Strike, Sweeping Strike, Thundering Strike, Tripping Strike. I'm just going to go with Martial Strike with this one too. I'm half tempted just to give you Martial Strike as part of the feature, but there is some variety that we're seeing here. So, see Player Warrior feature below. Okay. Planar Warrior. At 3rd level, you learn to draw on the energy of the multiverse to augment your attacks. You can choose to deal force damage instead of weapon damage when you hit a creature marked as your prey. In addition, choose either Necrotic Strike, Psionic Strike, or Radiant Strike as your bonus power. Gain this level. You can replace your choice with one of the other 2 options when you gain another level of Ranger. Okay. Psionic Strike. What were they? Psionic Strike, Necrotic Strike, and Radiant Strike. Those are gone. So this is out of date. That's right, we consolidated them into Life Stealing Strike at 2nd level. Let's see. Sonic Strike is good. Freezing Strike, Flaming Strike, Distracting Strike, Disarming Strike. Let's go with, yeah, let's just go with Sonic Strike. Let's see. You can draw on energy of the multiverse to augment your attacks. You can choose to deal force damage instead of weapon damage when you hit a creature marked as your prey. In addition, choose either Necrotic, Sonic, or Radiant Strike as your bonus power. Gain this level. You can replace your choice with one of the other 2 options. Okay, I don't need that anymore. At 3rd level, you can draw on the energy of the multiverse to augment your attacks. You can choose to deal either force, necrotic, or radiant damage instead of weapon damage when you hit a creature marked as your prey. There you go. Hunter. Sweeping Strike. Cool, we got it at 1st rank. Sweeping Strike. That's the hit. That's the twofer. And then Monster Hunter. Anticipate is such a great reaction. Anticipate is whenever a creature within reach of your melee weapon makes an attack, you get to attack them first. Not bad. Let's get rid of Asium Strike, as we do. And this is going to be another example of a Martial Strike. You know, I'm getting the feeling that I should just give them Martial Strike. And again, since these things are prepped, like if you want Anticipate at 3rd level, shit, you can have it at 1st level if you want. Just prepare it. It's expensive, but go ahead. And Swarmkeeper, Controlled Fall makes a lot of sense. Power Shield also makes a lot of sense. Defense Barrier. Fuck, all this stuff makes a lot of sense for this guy. Controlled Fall, it reduces damage like your swarm is carrying you. Power Shield. Let's get rid of Power Shield. Let's go with Controlled Fall. Because you could pick up Power Shield for free if you want. I mean, you could pick it up yourself if you wanted. Swarmkeeper. Let's see. Distracting Strike. What a great one. Your weapon deals an extra power die of damage. Next attack roll against the target by an attack other than you has advantage on the attack is made before the start of your next turn. That is STR1. Your weapon deals an extra power attack, and the next attack roll against the target made by you or another attacker has advantage. All right, kill that out. Thank you. Yeah, Distracting Strike is great because of the swarm. It distracts them, you get advantage. That makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of sense there. And then, oh yeah, and that's all of them. So there we go. And we hit our timer mark. That's perfect. So that's where we're at for now. And let's see, what's next? Next week's going to be the monk. So I'm not sure when the monk is going to get played, but whatever day it is, that's what we're going to do. We're going to mess around with the monk. And so we'll see what the timing is next week on either Tuesday or Friday. We'll work monk. And then the other day, I don't know what we're going to do yet. Something will inspire me along the way to do. And then we will do. But we have all the subclasses that have ever been published by WotC inside of here. But the Player's Handbook's only going to have 4. So we're going to take whichever 4 they have, update it, make sure it's compliant with what they're doing. And then we're going to take the rest of these, pull them out of this document, and then start making like $2 add-ons. Like Rangers, here you go. And then whenever they update the subclasses, we can update the document to correspond with what they've done. So, but that's it for now. So, Realm, cool. Thanks a lot. I mean, you have great taste, I think. So, cheers. But excited to see what you'll do with the monkey. Me too. I don't know where they're going with it. There's so many features that exist with the monk right now. I feel like they need to like rein it in a little bit so that I can rein it in a little bit. But we're gonna see. So I'm not making any expectations until I see it. I already have a stack of stuff in here, but I'm hoping these changes are going to allow us. Centered in the circle there. I'm hoping that we're going to see a much simplified process and it doesn't just become feature sprawl. We're seeing a lot of feature sprawl in 2024. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But yeah, thanks a lot for hanging out. Anyone else that's catching this in the future, I'm here 10 times per week. I do cartography for Eberron Adventures in the morning. Lunch times like this, I do like character class and subclass design, either for martial powers. On Wednesdays, I'm typically doing subclasses for Spelljammer. All 13 classes are going to get their own. On Mondays and Thursday nights, I do artwork for Spelljammer books that I'm building to complement the supplement that I made that's on DMsGuild. And then Saturday, like tomorrow, is a do whatever I want day. And so sometimes it's paid commissions. Sometimes it's just artwork that I want to do. Sometimes it's exploring a topic of conversation. Tomorrow, we're probably going to keep working on Eberron stuff. And then we'll be back on Monday to do this all again. So thanks a lot for hanging out, and I will see everyone on the other side. Thanks a lot. Laters.